Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Yeah. I'm here, folks. Don't sweat it. I'm here. I just had to get some last-minute stuff done before turning on the golden EIB microphone, getting started with today's excursion into broadcast excellence. Great to have you with us, as always. Rush Limbaugh, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushmo@eibnet.com. So did you follow through last night, Mr. Snerdley, and not watch the Oscars? Well, I watched them, and I have never been more bored, and I'm not trying to say this as a put-down. I don't know why I stuck with it. There was nothing else on, and I was physically worn out. I'd had a grueling, brutal, excruciating weekend. By the time Sunday night came around, I was just dog tired, cat tired, whatever. So, I didn't even have the energy to have my finger on the remote to change channels. So I sat there and watched it. I think the reason I stuck with it is I didn't think American Sniper was going to win anything. I did not buy all the hype. I didn't. They won one award for best costume making in a short story having to do with promotional schemes for a movie or some such category as that. I don't know what it was. And I wanted to see what did win. And I wanted to see if there was an infusion of politics. Donald Trump had a great take. Grab soundbite number 8. This is the Trumpster this morning on Fox and Friends.
It was a great night for Mexico, as usual. You know, this country, the whole thing is ridiculous. But it was a great night and very unexpected, a great night for Mexico. This guy kept getting up and up and up. I said, what's he doing? He's walking away with all the gold. Was it that good? I don't hear that. But it was certainly a big night for them.
A big night for Mexico. Even Sean Penn, when giving the award to the director for the Oscar, the Best Picture, said, "Who gave this son of a gun his green card?" Only he didn't say son of a gun. He said son of a bitch. Now, suppose they're good friends and they're good buddies and they tell insulting jokes to each other all the time. When Rudy Giuliani isn't around to hear it. And there was no offense taken or any of that. There were disguised political moments throughout the night. I thought Rudy would get hit a couple times last night, but he didn't. And we have more on that as the program unfolds before your very eyes. Because frankly, folks, what is happening out there in conservative media, oh my gosh, am I so happy to see, finally, I don't have to say this very carefully. Let me just say this. It is fantastic to finally see some people realizing what's going on when the left the media keeps going to our candidates. And what do you think about what Rudy said about Obama? In the first place, Scott Walker is showing everybody how to answer that question and how to answer all those questions. And another thing about this, we're also finally getting people turning it around on, well, hey, why don't you go ask some Democrats what they think of Bill Clinton flying all over the world with a pedophile? Why don't you guys go ask the Democrats what it's like to have to stand up and defend Joe Biden every day? It's always a one-way street. So Obama goes out and says some crazy things, apologizes for the country, or Rudy will come out and say, I don't think he loves the country, not the way we do. I just don't. And then so the press will go to other Republicans and ask them two things, to condemn Rudy and to validate Obama. And it's not our job to validate Obama, and it's not our job to comment on everything any other Republican says, because the media never asks Democrats to do that. Joe Biden is nuzzling women. He's insulting Indians. He's insulting Pakistanis. He insults somebody every time he opens his mouth, and not once does anybody in the media go to any Democrat and say, well, what do you have to say about what Joe Biden says? The reaction is, that's just old Joe. And it gets passed off and forgotten, as though it isn't any big deal. But you have a Todd Aiken, for example, say what he said. Every Republican has to comment on it. Every Republican has to condemn it. Every Republican, by the same token, whenever Obama is attacked by any other Republicans have to condemn the attack and then have to validate that Obama's not what the Republican said. But it never works the other way. And this is something that has bugged me. Those of you who have listened to this program from the beginning know this has bugged me from the beginning of all this. And finally, there are some people now pointing out the right way to do this. Don't answer the question and turn it back on them. For example, Scott Walker I don't know that this is an example. He had his own answer to it. I think he was asked about Obama's Christianity. He said, I don't know. I don't know whether Obama's a Christian. What are you asking me? Go ask him. Doesn't matter to me whether Obama's a Christian. That's not what I'm doing here. I don't know. I don't know the man. You go ask him if you care about he's a Christian or not. That's the way to handle it. Somebody will ask a Republican, well, what do you think about Rudy? Rudy insulting Obama. Rudy saying that Obama doesn't love America. The response is, I don't remember the last time you guys went around and started asking Hillary if she's very worried about Obama or about her husband flying all over the world with a pedophile and showing up at the pedophiles' homes in New York and Florida. When are you going to ask Bill Clinton what it's like? When are you going to ask people in the Democrat Party to defend Bill Clinton for doing this kind of stuff? And any other, that's starting to happen now. And when it does, it changes the story, the narrative. And it turns it around on them. And now the media is not happy with this. This is part of their monopoly that didn't change for a while. They were always able to get away with this. Any Republican, like me, they'll say something about somebody that's controversial, and they'll go to all these Republicans. What do you think about what Limbaugh said? And for the most part, they've played it right and not commented. But some will either defend me or condemn me, and that's what the media wants. And the right answer is, I don't speak for Rush Limbaugh. What Rush Limbaugh thinks, what Rush Limbaugh thinks. You're not going to condemn what Rush Limbaugh is. When are you going to condemn? You've got to be turned back on him. When are you going to condemn what Joe Biden keeps saying about 7-Eleven and Indian people? Or take your pick. When are you going to condemn Barack Obama for his constant attack on Benjamin Netanyahu and Christians? When are you going to? It's got to be turned back around on him, and it finally is starting to be. And so that I think this is great, and I hope this is something that continues, folks, because it is long overdue. The media and the Democrat Party have gotten, and I'll tell you what it comes down to. The reason why the Republicans have always done it is because of the mistaken impression that they can set themselves apart from other Republicans if they get media acceptance. I'll give you one of the most glaring examples of this. When was it that Dole ran for president? 96? And he had Jack Kemp on in the Veep, right? And there was a debate between the late Jack Kemp and then Vice President Al Gore. And Al Gore, during the debate, praised Kemp for not being like all of his Republican buddies. Al Gore went out of the way to say, Jack, I know you are not a racist. Jack, I know you are not a bigot. And Kemp thanked the vice president, rather than refute the allegation and the premise. He thanked him. By the same token, let's say you have Todd Aiken saying whatever he said about rape, and so here goes the media running around finding every Republican they can. And the Republicans just can't wait to condemn Aiken because they think that's how they establish themselves as reasonable, when the whole thing is nothing more than the latest media trick, which is to get Republicans to condemn each other and to validate Democrats. And that's part and parcel of what's happening here with the Rudy thing is two-pronged. They want Republicans to distance themselves from Rudy. They want Republicans to marginalize Rudy, and then they want Republicans to disagree with Rudy, which would then validate Obama. And it's not our job to validate Obama. So Scott Walker and a couple of others are showing the right way to do this now, and I, for one, couldn't be happier. Now, the other big political item of the night, and I thought this was, and I kind of perked up at it because it's a little bit out of place. I thought, been there, done that. And I said, what's with this? There's an actress out there, and her name is Patricia Arquette. Did I give you? Yeah, it's number 6. And she won the best supporting actress, female supporting actress, for her role in the movie Boyhood. Okay, now, I have seen Patricia Arquette in Boardwalk. And Patricia Arquette, She's got a great voice. You know, El Rushbo, am a student of voices. And hers is a really unique voice. I mean, everybody's voice is unique, but she knows how to use it. She uses it as, weapon, as an ammunition, as a tool. And she's starring in an upcoming TV series called CSI Cyber. They've spun off another one of the CSI shows, and this one is about cyber and therefore computer fraud and this kind of thing. And the pilot for this was an actual episode of CSI Crime Scene Investigation, whatever the thing that's set in Las Vegas. And I liked it. I liked the show, CSI Cyber. It debuts March 4th. And then I saw this thing last night. I said, darn it, why did she have to do this? Now I don't know that I want to watch CSI Cyber. And I was looking forward to watching CSI Cyber. Well, she went up there and she started just shouting about women's rights. She just started shouting about equal rights, and it made it look like women are the most discriminated. Now, in Hollywood, it's true. She had a point about Hollywood. Women are underpaid in Hollywood compared to men. And she had a point on Hillary. You know, Hillary, when she was a senator, the women on Hillary's staff did indeed make 72 cents for every dollar that a man made. So here's the relevant soundbite from Patricia Arquette. It goes by in 20 seconds. She's yelling and screaming out there. And if you didn't see this whole soundbite has been hijacked by Meryl Streep. Because what happened, did you see it, Dawn? Did you watch it? So you know what I'm talking. Did you see it, Brian? Yeah, you've got a kid. No way. So she says what she says, yells and screams, not quite Hillary screeching, but she got close. And immediately after she read it, she had it all typed out and written. She put her glasses on and read the thing and was nervous and out of breath as she was content. But when she got to the payoff, the camera cut to Meryl Streep, who was always in the front row. I was shocked when I found out Meryl Streep's only won 3 Oscars. I thought she'd won 73. I thought Meryl Streep got an Oscar every year, sometimes 5. I mean, I was shocked when she only got 3. She's up there every year, it seems like. Anyway, as soon as Patricia Arquette delivered the money line, Meryl Streep just popped up like she was at Jack-in-the-Box restaurant, started applauding and high-fiving and fist-bumping. And as far as the low-information voters today are concerned, it's Meryl Streep who said it. Patricia Arquette's comments have been totally hijacked, if you saw it, by Meryl Streep. Here's the soundbite.
To every woman who gave birth, to every taxpayer and citizen of this nation, we have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all, and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
Bam! Cut to Meryl Streep. She is out of her chair. Jennifer Lopez is right next to her going nuts, but Streep took over the screen at that point and just starts fist bumping and high-fiving and shouting, and everybody forgot about Patricia Arquette. By the way, that voice, that's not her professional voice. I mean, I complimented her voice. It's unique. She was just shouting, and you heard her out of breath. I'm out of breath listening to that. Oh, man. I take a breath here. What were you going to say, Snurdly? What was it? Oh, and everything in the world to do with Oscar. You remember Amy Pascal, who got canned at Sony? Well, yeah, but you found out that she was making much less than her co-CEO. And there was some other, in those emails, in that hack, who was it? Some other female actress, I can't remember who it was also documented that the women, at least being paid by Sony, are being paid much less than the men. What Patricia Arquette was really talking about women in Hollywood and women on Hillary Clinton's staff, as I found out. In the rest of the culture and society, I don't think it's as big a problem as it used to be, equal pay. But this felt like a throwback. This is something I felt like I could have heard in the 70s. And here it is, 2015. Hillary Clinton portrays herself. This is the Washington Free Beacon. Hillary Clinton portrays herself as a champion of women in the workforce. But women working for her in the U.S. Senate were paid 72 cents for each dollar paid to men, according to a Washington Free Beacon analysis of her Senate year salary data. During those years, the median annual salary for a woman working in Clinton's office was almost $16,000 less than the median salary for a man, according to the analysis of data compiled from official Senate expenditure reports. The analysis compiled the annual salaries paid to staffers. See, this is what I love. It's always the left's up there standing up, yelling, whining, moaning, belly aching. And when you find out who it is they're mad at, it's themselves. Sony was underpaying women. Now here's Hillary underpaying women. But there's Patricia Arquette. A poor woman got her whole moment hijacked by Meryl Streep. It was the most amazing thing. Okay, warning, I'm going to stick with the subject of the Oscars here for a minute, but it's not about that. It's about economics. It's a lesson. It's a teachable moment. I'm not delving into pop culture discussion of movies and stuff like that. Patricia Arquette was in the movie Boyhood, where she played a single mom raising a kid. And that is what makes her an expert on income inequality. Don't forget that. Actresses who play farmer wives, for example, become experts on problems on the farm. So Patricia Arquette, playing a single mom, raising a kid in the movie Boyhood, now makes her an expert on income equality. She said, listen to this bite again. There's something in here that I found somewhat curious.
To every woman who gave birth, to every taxpayer and citizen of this nation, we have fought for everybody else's equal rights.
All right, stop the tape. To every woman, to every woman who gave birth, to every... Did she just diss women who've had abortions? You don't hear this. That's a mistake. It's a faux pas. I'm sure she didn't intend it. But you don't hear this kind of reference in Hollywood, particularly in the Oscars, honoring women who've given birth. That's kind of the opposite of what happens there. Now, what Meryl Streep did, Meryl Streep literally hijacked Patricia Arquette's moment, and she knew it. Do not think that that was just unbridled enthusiasm. Look, Meryl Streep's in the front row. She knows a camera when she sees it, obviously. She knows when the red light on the camera is on. She knows it. She knows the camera's... There's got a body watch camera on Meryl Streep all day. She knows this. So she popped up at the right moment, and the director cut right to her reaction. In the movie business, that is called stealing focus. It's an actual term for it. Stealing focus. And it's taboo. It's considered Bush League. Now, you won't hear that said about Meryl Streep, because Meryl Streep has won 73 Oscars and speaks 115 languages with 1,400 different accents, not to mention the dialects. So you just don't attack her. But now here's the economics lesson. Sean Penn last night said, when he presented the best movie, it's about the movies. It's not about the money they make. It's not about this. It's not about... And he might have been talking about in terms of the awards, but I'm telling you, it is about the money they make. It's all about that's why they do this. It's all about the money they make, just like any other business is. And there's a reason women are paid less than men in Hollywood. There's a market reason for it. And it has nothing to do with discrimination, has nothing to do with sexism or anything else. Do you know what it is? Do you know the reason? Do you know why women in Hollywood, actresses, are paid less than men? Do you know why they make less than men? It's not sexism. It isn't bigotry. It isn't the casting couch. It's box office. And don't get mad at me for saying it. I'm just telling you the way it is. Women in Hollywood don't make as much as men because they are not equal in draw. Folks, these are market research numbers. This is their business to know this. They focus group this stuff. They research this stuff. It is all about the money. When Sean Penn goes out there and says, hey, you know what? It's just about the movies. It's at the end of the day, it's about the movies. It's not about how much money they make. It's not about how over budget they are. He may be talking about in terms of the award show. But for the people who run the business, it is all about the movie, and they're not going to overpay for people that don't. And they don't get it right every day. They overpay all kinds of people in Hollywood. They probably underpay people in Hollywood, but they try to get it as close as they can, and it's box office, and it's who draws and who doesn't, and it's just the way it is. Male stars are bigger box office than female stars. Now, if you want to condemn American culture for that, then you have at it. If you want to say we're a racist country because moviegoers would just as soon are, more attracted to movies with male stars than they are female stars, have at it. I mean, you're on your own. I'm making no comment on that. I'm just telling you this is what Hollywood market research indicates. And it's just the way it is. Now, obviously, people are going to try to make it out to be sexism and racism, but look at these are all liberals. How in the world can this be? I mean, the liberals are the ones that are running around raising all hell about this. The liberals are the ones running around accusing us and everybody else of income inequality, and it's their own house that's guilty. It's their own industry. Look at Hillary. Hillary paid the women on her staff. These are official numbers. It's not somebody's wild guess. She paid the women that worked in her staff made 72% of what men made. And yet these liberals are running around. This is the point of all of last week when I spent a lot of time telling you why it mattered that all of these federal agencies wanted to be in charge of what you eat and take every control of your life as possible. They're the ones that think you're imperfect. They're the ones that think you don't know what to do in decision making. You're the ones that don't have the smarts to take care of yourselves. You don't have the judgment. You don't spend your money right. They're the ones that have all the answers. They're the only ones, by the way, that can ever get us to this perfect utopia. That's what they believe. And yet they run around, they make all these allegations, and you find out that all of this injustice is happening right inside their own homes, right inside their own businesses. While they point fingers at us and everybody else for being imperfect, for being racist, for being sexist, for being prejudicial, whenever the spotlight turns inward and shines the light of truth on these people, we find out what a bunch of hypocrites they are. And as liberals, I have a question. Since we now know, and it's documented, that male stars in Hollywood make more than female stars, that equals what? Why, that's income inequality. Why, that's the unequal and unfair redistribution of resources. I mean, there are X amount of dollars coming into Hollywood every year based on the production, based on the movies and everything that goes along with it. And men are getting a greater percentage of it than women. Why don't the men give it back? Why don't the men, as good liberals, why don't the male actors, to show that they're good liberals and that they're all about fairness and that they are devoted to equality, why don't male stars say, I am not going to do this movie unless my female co-star earns as much as I do? Even if that means I will reduce my demand. Why don't they do that? They're the leaders. They're the ones with all the answers. They're the big critics. They're the ones that recognize racism all over the place, these libs. They're the ones that recognize sexism all over the place. They're the ones that are launching constant, never-ending allegations at us, against us, for all this stuff. Why don't they take the lead? Now that we know that women are underpaid in Hollywood, at least as compared to men, why don't these sensitive, aware, devoted to equality male actors take the lead on this? Patricia Arquette showed the way. Meryl Streep popped up and shouted her agreement. Male stars need to actively say to the studios and producers, I'm not going to do this unless my female co-star earns as much as I do. And if I have to give back 20% of what you've offered me so that my female co-star can make as much as I do in this movie, then that's what I will do. Until they do that, shut up. Until Hollywood fixes its own house, until Hollywood can make itself the exemplar of perfection as it's demanding from everybody else. And Lord knows they tout themselves. Oh, they're great storytellers, they're great influencers, they inspire. You hear them all during the award show. The art and how much it inspires and so forth. What I saw last night was nothing more than an endless parade of misery. Yet again, receiving awards for it. Endless misery here, endless misery, triumphing over misery, being mired in misery, whatever. Everybody's miserable. The constant liberal state. Everybody's miserable, everybody's unhappy, everybody's agitated, and here's who portrayed it the best. Here's who inspired us to be miserable better than anybody else did tonight. But I still think that the men have a long way to go. If they're that much overpaid, give it back. In the name of equality, in the name of sameness, and by all means, in the name of fairness. I did not believe this story when I saw it. This next one. It's from the UK Daily Mail. Government panel recommends 5 cups of coffee a day now to ward off heart disease, liver cancer, and Parkinson's. How long ago was it? It wasn't very long ago that these same people were warning us of the life-threatening dangers of drinking too much coffee. Right? Seems like it was just yesterday that we were being bombarded with earth-shattering, scary news that drinking too much coffee could cause early death, maybe even Alzheimer's, certainly could lead to constipation. It certainly was something that people were doing too much and needed to avoid. And now all of a sudden, you can't drink too much of it. You need to be drinking more. Minimum 5 cups a day. That will ward off heart disease, not cause it. It will ward off liver cancer, not lead to it. And it will ward off Parkinson's disease. Now, funny about that, I thought embryonic stem cells were going to fix Parkinson's disease. Oh, wait. No. In fact, I thought somebody had already made the point that embryonic stem cells had cured Parkinson's, but we find it wasn't embryonic stem cells, it was adult stem cells. But that doesn't fit the politically correct narrative. So here you go. Same people been yelling at us for decades that coffee was bad. Coffee was unhealthy. Coffee was evil. Coffee was yuck. Now telling us to drink at least 5 cups a day. Is it any wonder people are panicked every day over their health? Is it any wonder people are obsessed with their health? Because every week it's a new calamity or a new contradiction of a previous calamity. This bunch of experts is from the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, which convenes every 5 years. They did a detailed assessment of coffee for the first time, and they recommend drinking 3 to 5 cups a day or 400 milligrams for pregnant women. The report suggests limiting coffee consumption to 2, so it still can harm pregnant women. 5 cups a day may keep the doctor away. Now, they say later on the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, that'd be DGAC. One of the members, Tom Brenna, Cornell University, says, hey, look, I don't want to get into implying that coffee cures cancer, but there is no evidence of increased risk. If anything, it's the other way around. Coffee is good stuff, he told Bloomberg. Coffee is good stuff. How many of you have been thinking, how long have you been thinking coffee was a bad thing, that you needed to avoid it, and maybe you're drinking too much of it? It's either the caffeine or something, but I'm sure many of you, millions of you, running around with it in your head that coffee is a bad thing and you can't give it up, you like it too much. And now all of a sudden, hey, not only is it okay, you may not be drinking enough of it. Bunch of idiots. Just need to shut up. Now, look, I know there are exceptions. There's exceptions to everything. Like look at, Hollywood will make a chick flick now and then. 50 Shades of Grey. Chick flick. But what did they do? They went out and found a relatively unknown actor. Relatively. I mean, it's not Meryl Streep in there, not that it would be. But take it, it's a relatively unknown actress who did not command big bucks, and a relatively unknown actor from Northern Ireland, Jamie Dornan. It's all about the money, Sean. Anyway, to the phones we go, folks. Kicking off brand new week, broadcast excellence, Rush Limbaugh to Macon, Georgia. This is Bill. Hello, sir.
Hi, Rush. How you doing?
Very well, sir. I'm glad you called. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Pascal is paid what she's paid, not because she's a woman. She's paid what she's paid because what she or whoever negotiates for her negotiated. She is an executive. People at that level, and a lot of non-executive jobs, are paid. The companies will not pay you what you're worth. They're going to hire the best talent at the lowest price, and if you under-negotiate yourself and you take what they offer you, you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid at a lower rate. I'm finding that out after 32 years in the military. I'm considered an executive. I'm 49. I'm getting ready to retire next week, and I'm learning all kinds of things. And one of the things that they're telling us in our transition is companies are going to, like I said, companies are going to hire the best talent they can at the lowest price. So if Amy Pascal is paid lower than her male colleagues,
as a generic rule, that's true, but there are exceptions to everything. Depending on cycles that we find ourselves in, certain employees can name their price depending on the need the business has for whatever a particular employee does and whether the employee is the best and how many other options the employer or potential employee has. But as a general rule, you're right. Labor costs are the biggest item in any business's balance sheet, and they want to pay them as little as they can get away with. That's a standard operating procedure. Compensation, what people get paid, is one of the most misunderstood elements of American life, I think. Now, look at what Bill just said here. Now, Amy Pascal, she just got blown out of Sony. It was her account mainly, although everybody's was, but her account was, really, really hacked. Virtually every embarrassing email that she hoped never to be seen was seen. But one of the things she was the co-CEO. There was a male CEO that ran the business side. She ran the studio and production side. And she was making considerably less than Michael Linden was the co-CEO. Now, Bill's point is that it's not innate discrimination. It is whoever her agent was or whoever negotiated for her did not get the best deal that could have been gotten. Obviously, if another guy, co-CEO, got more. You never know. That could be true. It could be the employee left money on the table. It could be the employee didn't care as much, wanted the job, wanted the day-to-day more. The money was not as important as it was to others. It's different unless you're in a union. This is the point. Compensation is different from person to person to person. And it's one of the most misunderstood subjects, I think, in American economics. And there are a lot of misunderstood things in economics. I don't believe, for example, on the surface of this, and you're going to disagree with me probably, but the concept of overpaid, I'm not really sure it exists. It may be, you think so, an athlete, say an Alex Rodriguez. There's no way he's worth $25 million when you compare it to a teacher who barely makes $60,000. You'd sit there, you're going to make a judgment on which is more important. Well, that's a dangerous game to play. More important to who? Whoever's paying Alex Rodriguez $25 million is A, either stupid, or B, really thinks that's what Rodriguez is worth, or was at the time the deal was made. And as far as the Yankees are concerned, or the Rangers, or whatever team pays it, they have made a decision that that money is going to come back to them once, twice, maybe three times, that it's going to be worth it. Very few employers actually throw money away. Some do. As I said, there are exceptions to everything, and not every employer is brilliant. Not every manager makes every compensation decision correctly. But you are worth what you can get somebody to pay you. That's what it boils down to. You are worth as much as you can convince somebody to pay you. So when you start talking about somebody being overpaid at whatever dollar, well, not to whoever's paying it. For some reason, whoever's paying it thinks he's got value there. It's a real, to me, it's a fascinating subject revolving around the employer-employee relationship. And the fact that most employees, let's have a little time. Most employees, not most, many, never even fully understand the value they really have. Because it's largely a defensive relationship. And sometimes, what? I mean, the boss has all the power. The employee is always on defense. If you get too aggressive, you're going to get canned. These kinds of, it's a defensive position because it's not the position of power. And I think a lot of employees totally misunderstand the power they have. It's ingrained in us, though. We're raised that way. But it doesn't have to be the case. Anyway, I got to take a break here. But we will continue. Sit tight. Don't go away. What? Oh, yeah. Of course we're. Oh, yeah, haven't even gotten in? Well, just a little bit. Yeah, we're going to. How could you think I wouldn't? Whether Obama loves America or not. Sure, we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep talking about that. I mentioned it a little bit in the first hour, part of first hour, but yeah, that and all kinds of stuff coming up here, folks. Don't go anywhere. No, I'm telling you, that isn't going to work. It hasn't worked for 25 years. It isn't going to work. We're not going to gain any ground with a low-information crowd or anybody else by simply pointing out what a bunch of hypocrites the Democrats are. For example, everybody's jumping on Rudy for what he said about Obama not loving the country. And some Republicans, some media types, you know what? Nobody got upset when Obama said that Bush was unpatriotic. Nobody got upset when Obama questioned Bush's patriotism. And you say, what? When did Obama do that? Oh, a bunch of times, folks. But I remember one time specifically, Obama used to say that Bush running up the national debt was unpatriotic. But Obama had a number of different allegations about Bush in this regard. Nobody cared because it's the media. Nobody ran around to other Democrats and asked them, so, Mrs. Clinton, what do you think that Barack Obama means when he says the president of the United States is not a patriot? It ain't going to happen, folks. Until now. Now maybe we can make it happen. But simply in the middle of this Rudy situation. By the way, greetings and welcome back. Great to have you, Rush Limbaugh, behind the golden EIB microphone. Talent. So much talent. Wish I could share some. On loan from God. 800-282-2882. Simply pointing out what a bunch of hypocrites the Democrats are is not going to get a single vote. It's not going to change a single mind. I've watched this. I've tried it myself. I've thought in the old days that pointing out the hypocrisy, just like what I said about Hollywood. For example, do you think I'm not going to do anything other than be entertaining and to you and maybe cause some people to go, oh, yeah, I never looked at it that way. But in terms of actually changing anything, it isn't going to. So here you have, just to refresh what I'm talking about, Patricia Arquette goes out there and starts whining and moaning about income inequality, about how women are getting the short end of the stick, women getting the shaft because they're not being paid as much as men. And everybody goes, yeah. And then you find out where it's happening is Hollywood, where she works. Okay, fine. It's Hollywood that doesn't pay women as much as men. It's Hillary Clinton that doesn't pay her women on her Senate staff as much as men. That's great hypocrisy. That is one of the greatest examples, illustrations I could give you. Is it going to change anybody who watches entertainment on a regular basis mind? There has to be more than just pointing out these people are hypocrites, is my point. You could say of Obama, All those times that he alleged that Bush was unpatriotic for this, that, and the other thing as a means of defending Rudy, and it isn't going to work. The way it's starting to shape up now, however, as I mentioned in the first hour of the program, is showing great promise. Here's the way it works. Rudy Giuliani will go out and it will make a speech. In this case, it was at 21, the fashionable New York dining establishment. And it was a dinner hosted by three prominent Republicans, and it was sort of an audition. It was Scott Walker's turn to come show these guys that he's worth it. Potential fundraisers, conservative Republican media types, it was his turn. They do this. It was Stephen Moore. I always have a mental block. Stephen Moore. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I can't remember the other two, but I did last week. Anyway, this is a round robin. Ted Cruz will have his night, and another. Now I can't remember. It doesn't matter who. It was at this speech that Rudy made his comment about Obama not loving America like the rest of us do. So the standard operating procedure, media hears about it. First thing they do is act shocked and outraged, start bashing Rudy. The next thing they do is go to prominent Republicans. What do you think about what Rudy said? Are you prepared to condemn Rudy Giuliani for saying President Obama doesn't love America? The setup is, okay, here the media is going to make sure that other Republicans throw another Republican overboard, which I cannot tell you how frustrated that has made me over these years. I've been doing this program 26 years, and I've watched it for every one of those 26 years. And I have watched Republicans dutifully comply. Media comes calling, demanding that the Republicans condemn whatever controversial statement some other Republican made, throw him overboard. The Republicans do so because they want to be in good graces with the media. But it doesn't get them in good graces with the media. So after they throw the Republican overboard, this is the way it used to work, and may still, isolated occasions. After the media succeeds in getting other Republicans to throw Rudy overboard, they then go to Republicans a second time and say, will you now admit that Obama is somebody who loves America? So they get a double whammy out of it. They go to the Republicans to get a Republican to throw one of their own overboard, which has always worked, and then they go back the second time, demanding that the Republicans validate the Democrat and say that the Democrat's a good guy. To say that the Democrat is not what that idiot Republican alleged that got all this started. And this is how Republicans sell out their own, and have been doing that for as long as I've been doing this. I watched it happen to Oliver North. I can't tell you the number of Republicans I've had. All these Tea Party Republicans, you can't. I mean, it was almost a fait accompli it was going to happen to them. Well, they tried it with Scott Walker. He was at this dinner at 21. It was Stephen Moore and Art Laffer, and there was one other. It was a troika of guys that supposedly you have to... Kudlow, yeah, Kudlow, Larry Kudlow, who I don't think is as conservative as he used to be. Not after the years at CNBC. Well, some of the things he's been writing, I don't think he... Not saying he's not conservative, and I'm not throwing him overboard. I'm just saying he's not as conservative as I mean, Kudlow's a guy that explained baseline budgeting to me back early 90s. But what happens now is these media guys, they went to Scott Walker. And, of course, the point was he's leading Republican presidential polls now. So they've got to take him out. Media has to take him out. So here's Rudy, not running for anything, but used to be the mayor of New York City, former presidential candidate. Rudy goes out and says Obama doesn't love America. So, Governor Walker, what do you think about Rudy Giuliani saying Obama doesn't love the country? And Walker is not playing the game. Walker's saying, you know what? I don't care. Rudy speaks for himself. I mean, he's a New Yorker. They say all kinds of crazy stuff in New York. But he didn't leave it at that. He then said, I don't see any of you guys going asking Joe Biden or asking Clinton or Obama what they think of the latest embarrassing thing Joe Biden said. I don't hear any of you media people going to say Hillary Clinton asking her what she thinks of her husband flying around on a private jet owned by an admitted pedophile and hunkering down at the pedophile's house. I just don't, you guys, I don't remember you asking Hillary about that. And then the media says, you're not playing the game. This is not what you're supposed to say. You're a coward. They call Scott Walker a coward for avoiding their question. So they double down on trying to get Walker tagged as a coward by asking, do you think that Obama's a Christian? You think he's not a Christian? You know, there's a bunch of Republicans saying they question whether he's a Christian. Do you think Obama's a Christian? Scott Walker again refused to take the bait. I don't care, he said. I don't know, he said. I don't know Obama. I've never talked religion with Obama. It doesn't matter to me. If you want to know if Obama's a Christian, go ask him. The media really ticked off now because the trick that they've gotten away with for 26 years has just been denied them by no less than the Republican frontrunner, who they desperately want to take out, who they desperately want to tag as a coward or an idiot for refusing to even answer the question. Remember when he was in London and he was meeting with the Prime Minister of Great Britain and the Mayor of London, and some media person over there asked him what he thinks about evolution out of the blue in relationship to absolutely nothing. And Scott Walker said, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not here to evolution. I'm not. What are you talking about? I'm not. Unlike Romney, who went ahead after being pressed, did answer the contraception question, thereby igniting the war on women. Walker wasn't going to answer it, and he didn't answer it. So the media is left to accuse Walker of being a coward or a boopkus or a Midwestern hick not qualified for the office. He may not even know what evolution is, they say. That's why he won't answer it. He's a coward because he won't answer because he doesn't know. And he doesn't know because he didn't go to college. This guy's really a reprobate, they want you to believe. The truth of the matter is, the media has been denied a scalp. They were looking for Rudy's scalp, and by extension, they wanted Scott Walker's scalp. They wanted Walker to condemn Rudy. Or better, they wanted Walker to defend Rudy. They wanted Walker to stand up and say, Rudy's right. You know what? I don't think Obama loves America. Oh, they would have been in nirvana if Scott Walker had said that. Instead, he threw it right back at him. You know, I don't recall you guys going out and asking other Democrats what they think. Whenever Joe Biden opens his mouth, or whenever Joe Biden starts nuzzling the neck of some woman that he barely knows, right there on camera. I don't recall you media people ever asking any of these Democrats to explain themselves. You talk about the Koch brothers, this and that. I don't recall any of you running around and asking Democrats about their questionable donors and the source of their big bucks. And I can't tell you, it's music to my ears. It is the exact way to handle it. And my point is, in the midst of all, just pointing out the hypocrisy, I love doing it. But at the same time, I know it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't carry any weight. Pointing out the hypocrisy of Hollywood, pointing out the hypocrisy of the feminist movement and Bill Clinton. I mean, you can point out the hypocrisy all day long. Here's Bill Clinton, who has used women, who has degraded women, who may have raped one, if we are to believe Juanita Broaddrick. Here is a guy who Clinton, number one aide, goes on television waving a dollar bill, says, wave one of these around through a trailer park, what are you going to get? You're going to get Paula Jones. That's what you're going to get. So he's got the bimbo eruption. You get the whole Clinton presidential apparatus designed to destroy women. And the feminist movement can't get enough of Bill Clinton. Well, you can point that hypocrisy out all day long. And last I looked, it hadn't hurt Clinton. He's a bigger rock star than ever, despite all that hypocrisy. And maybe even because of it. As corrupt and perverted as the left is in the way they define victory. But this, refusing to go along with their tricks, refusing to fall for the trick and answer the question or the opportunity to condemn Rudy and the subsequent opportunity to praise Obama and to validate Obama. Look at this headline from thehill.com. Walker called out for silence on Giuliani. See, this is how it works. He didn't give them what they want, so now they're doubling down on him, and he's an idiot, he's a coward, he's uninformed, he didn't go to college, don't know what he's talking about. But this is the way to do it. Just throw it right back at the media, rather than accept the premise. This has been my whole point. All the Republicans could have beat half the media juggernaut back years ago if they would have adopted simply one technique, and that is do not fall for or accept the premise of most every media question, because every damn one of them's a gotcha. Every media question of a Republican, particularly during campaign season, is a setup. And it is not designed to make you look good. It's not designed to make a Republican look worldly or different from the controversial Republican or what have you. Anyway, let me take a brief time out. I'll give you some audio sound bites how frustrated the media is over their inability to trick Scott Walker up on this. Don't go away. Let me give an example. Here's some more Scott Walker headlines. USA Today. Governor Walker doesn't know if Obama loves his country. The Hill headline, I don't know if Obama loves America, is Christian. From the Huffington Puffington Post, Scott Walker, I don't really know whether Obama loves America. From the Washington Post, Scott Walker's cowardice should disqualify him. That's Dana Milbank. These guys, I'm telling you, because he's from Wisconsin, they do not understand. You know, it'd be very easy. The left threw everything at Scott Walker they have. In debates, the mayor of Milwaukee was one of his opponents, one of the elections. The mayor of Milwaukee insulted him, invaded his personal space, towered over him in these debates, mistreated him, accused him of all kinds, and Walker never responded to any of it. He just kept talking about his agenda. He beat it back. Now, these people in the media in the Northeastern Corridor have got their narratives, and they've got their templates, they've got the way they do things, and there's a technique now to taking Republicans out. Just discussed it. Not going to repeat it, but Walker's not playing the game. And if they would have just spent some time watching how he operated, how he won 3 elections in 4 years in the state of Wisconsin, they might have an indication that none of this is going to shake him up. None of this is going to bother him at all. All these headlines, there's a rule of thumb when you are in the music business in radio, and it is you can never be hurt by a song you don't play. I mean, nobody's ever going to tune out because they haven't heard a song, because nobody will know for sure you've never played it. Nobody listens 24/7, 365. But you can be hurt by a song you do play. You play a rotten song, rotten record, people will tune out. By the same token, a politician can really not be hurt by what he doesn't say, but can be by what he does. Now, there are certain times we're not saying something in certain circumstances, but not this. This is not one of them, because this is a gotcha moment. He's just not responding to a gotcha moment, and they are so ticked because they're used to Republicans caving at the first sign of pressure. And Walker, and he's not the only one, by the way. There are a lot of Republicans who start to stand up to this, but particularly now some conservative media people are finally joining this chorus when the standard practice has always been mollify the media. Oh, my God. The media, try to be nice to them. Give them what they want. Oh, my God. Don't buck the media. And we're now bucking the media, and it's not supposed to happen. But I'm here to tell you it's exactly what Republican voters want. Republican voters don't separate the media from the Democrat Party. Republican voters don't think there's any difference between the Democrat presidential nominee and the media. And there is no way that Republicans should not know this. And therefore, there's no way the Republicans ought to treat the media as though they're objective and fair when they're not. And everybody knows they're not. They're just a branch office of the Democrat Party. And you never let your enemy beat you on purpose. You never fall for tricks that your enemy plays on you. But the Republicans always have when it's, and they've said, it's the landscape we have to deal with. We have to show we're tough. We have to show we can deal. We can't run from the media. Walker's not running from the media. He's just not playing the game. He's not going to throw Rudy Giuliani overboard, just like he's not going to throw any other Republican overboard. No Republican should, but that's been the track record. Throw a controversial Republican overboard so you can look good to the media. It's a selfish, vain ploy, and it is ultimately destructive for the party. I'll give you a soundbite. F. Chuck Todd. This is Sunday morning on Meet the Press. F. Chuck, the second choice to host the show. Jon Stewart was first. Here's Chuck Todd remarks about Giuliani, talking about Barack Hussein O.
What have we learned from this mess? And I say this a mess because I tell you, I've hated this story in so many ways. It brings out the worst in the press. I think it's bringing out the worst in some politicians. It's a race to the bottom, and now we know why everybody's cynical about the press and politics.
Come on, Chuck. You're only upset about this because Walker didn't play ball. You're only upset about this because Rudy didn't play ball. You went to Rudy and you wanted him to back off of it, and he didn't. You went to Rudy and you wanted him to apologize for it, and he didn't. I guarantee you, Chuck Todd would not hate this story if Rudy had played ball. If Rudy had played ball and apologized and came groveling back to the media and to Obama begging forgiveness for this outrageous comment, they would have loved the story. They didn't get what they wanted out of the story, which is why they're not crazy about it. I got to take a break. We got much more straight ahead, including your phone calls, so don't go away. I'm going to give you another example here before we get back to the phones. This is a great example of hypocrisy. They're going to mean anything. So the media is demanding that Scott Walker condemn Rudy Giuliani. I just gave you some of the headlines. In fact, there's another headline from The Hill. Walker called out for silence on Giuliani. Governor Walker doesn't know if Obama loves his country. I don't know if Obama loves America is Christian, says The Hill. Huffington Puffington Post. Scott Walker, I don't really know whether Obama loves America. Blah, 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 blah. So everybody, the media demanding that Scott Walker condemn Rudy and throw him overboard. Let me throw a quote back. What are you laughing at in there? Oh, they are tied up. But listen to this. See if you remember this. I can no more disown him than I can disown my white grandmother. That was Barack Hussein O. in a famous speech on race that everybody but me has forgotten. It was March 18, 2008, and he was talking about Jeremiah Wright. And this is a great example throughout the entire 2008 campaign. When all kinds of people on the right were pointing out Jeremiah Wright and playing Jeremiah Wright sound bites from the pulpit, Jeremiah Wright's extremist nutcase, hated America, making it plain he hated Americans, and Obama sat in his church for 20 years, and the media thought there wasn't a story there. There wasn't a story. Not interested whatsoever. So here's Giuliani. He goes out there and says whatever he says about Obama, and the media stops everything and starts going to every damn Republican they can find, demanding they comment on it, condemn Rudy, disown Rudy, throw him over. Jeremiah Wright goes on for years. And the media had to be dragging, kicking, and screaming to it. And it resulted in Obama doing a speech in which he said, I can no more disown Jeremiah Wright than I can disown my own white grandmother. And it was applauded as brilliant. What if Scott Walker said, I can no more disown Rudy Giuliani than I could disown Thomas Jefferson? The media has no problem with Obama's mentors. No problem with Jeremiah Wright. No problem with Bill Ayers. No problem with any of Obama's radical mentors and extremist friends to this day. Rudy Giuliani's not the problem. He identified the problem, and that's what's got the media clutching their pearls on a fainting couch. Oh, they got the vapors. Not supposed to happen. This isn't supposed to happen. You're not supposed to question anything about Obama. The left is hooked. Have you seen these people on TV? From Marianne Marsh, I tell you, whatever, I don't care, whatever Democrat, strategist, analyst, whatever, on Fox, the 3 Network, they are beside themselves over what Rudy said. They can't believe it. They're beside themselves. They're demanding that Rudy apologize, forgive, and go away and take it back and so forth. And why are they so upset? Hit too close to home, if you ask me. If you ask me, the Democrats have been applauding themselves for 7 years, getting away with keeping this stuff under the rug for that long. Rudy Giuliani, American hero. Jeremiah Wright, disgrace. Ran the only church that captured Obama's time and imagination for the length of time, by the way. Every other church was deemed boring. 17, 20 years, whatever. Obama regularly attends Jeremiah Wright's church. He now goes sporadically, if at all, through, even though he said he wasn't, he threw Jeremiah Wright overboard. Jeremiah Wright expected to get the treatment. He predicted it. But Rudy isn't the problem, and Scott Walker doesn't have a problem. It's Obama that has the problem, and the media knows it. That's why they're in a tizzy. Okay, here's Jim in Southeast Missouri. Great to have you, sir, on the EIB network. Hello.
21-year listener from the Sykes and Cape Girardeau area, and I'd be remiss in my duties as a listener if I didn't tell you how much my 5- and 10-year-old children have enjoyed listening to the first and third parts of the Rush Revere series. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much, Jim. I really appreciate that.
And I kind of want to, I guess, dovetail into the Oscars now. I haven't watched it in years. You know, it's the same old parade of people who like to smell their own flatulence, I guess, so I don't watch anymore. But I picked up on Ms. Arquette's comment about equality for women, and it's a thing that's bothered me for years. It's a part of the hypocritical game. They talk about equality. We all know it means same pay or some of the same jobs as men. But why not extend this out to true, real equality where women who maybe want to be in the front lines of combat, we can have all women apply or register with Selective Service. Perhaps we could have women be treated in divorce custody cases the same as a man, no preferential treatment. Maybe they get the same punishment for cocaine sentencing. And furthermore, let's say Mary Kay Letourneau, when she got probation for having sex with a 13-year-old student years ago, why not treat her like a man? I mean, that's what true equality ought to be about, shouldn't it?
Yes, but you see, women as minorities forever are allowed more latitude and leeway in doing things that are not kosher, unconventional, or in violation of the law. And there's a little bit more compassion and understanding. You talk about front lines in combat. Of course they had to change standards for women to qualify. I mean, the physical differences alone are what they are. Can't deny them. So they had same thing for women firefighters and this. And they had to change the standards. The point is, when you start making these concessions, it never ends. So I remember back in the 70s when I actually took my first stab at doing a talk show at a radio station in Kansas City, and played music. So it wasn't a full-fledged talk show. It was a brand new FM station, and it was a totally experimental format. But I remember that affirmative action was one of the big deals then. And I remember having on some affirmative action aficionado who was explaining the whys and wherefores of it. It was to make amends for past transgressions, among other things. It was to level the playing field. And I said, okay, well, so when does that end? At what point are you going to say that we've made amends? At what point are the past transgressions going to have been equalized? He said, oh, never. I said, what? Oh, never. He was very honest. This is back before, people were willing to be open and honest and upfront. The political awareness back then in terms of things like talk radio just didn't exist. So this guy was totally at ease telling me there wasn't going to be any end to it. So I said, you mean to tell me the purpose of affirmative action is not to make amends, and it's not to address grievances? That's just your selling point. He said, for all intents and purposes, yeah. It was to forever make the playing field unlevel, because this was the price America had to pay for the way it was founded. America had to pay this price, and it was always for the rest of its days going to pay the price. So all of these concessions that are made to the grievance industry never, ever get anywhere near solving the supposed so-called problem. Now, you can find examples of male-female inequality everywhere you want to go, and you can find many examples where it is men on the short end of the stick. One area would be child custody. Another area would be divorce court. There's any number of places where you could make the case that the advantage is all with women. And you'd have just as many people shrieking that I don't know what I'm talking about when I say that. But this whole notion of equality, that's what's bogus. It's not possible. There's no such thing. Just like fairness. Fairness is ephemeral. Women are victims when they get divorced. Well, that's it. Women are victims, period. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the justification for all of this. Hell, pregnancy makes women a victim. It makes them sick. Gives them a disease. If you listen to the right people. Jim, I appreciate the call. This is Greg in Raleigh, North Carolina. Great to have you with us, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. How you doing?
Good.
I'm a long-time listener, second-time caller, and I'm a business owner, and I'd like to give you my perspective as to why the income inequality is nonsense. Now, I own a small company, and I employ between 20 and 40 people, depending on the time of year it is, and 80% of them are men. Now, if currently I pay all of my staff exactly the same based on the job that they do. But if I could pay women 72 cents on the dollar for what I pay men, I would fire all of my male employees and hire all women. And guess who would get a raise as a result? Me. And I'm just a small employer. I only employ 20 to 40 people. Can you imagine the savings in a big company like SAS or Glaxo or IBM? So if they're paying men $100,000 a year and they could pay women $72,000 a year, well, good Lord, that's a $28,000 saving per employee. I'd fire all the men and hire women.
There you go, folks. Straight up and down, 100% economic common sense. If you can get women for $28,000 a year less than men, fire the men. Give yourself, the business owner, a raise. But no, see, they want to tell you they exist because it's discrimination, because you, Greg, you are part of the group conducting the war on women, and you're purposely underpaying them because you know they'll accept it, and you're favoring the men. So what they're really telling you is that you enjoy overpaying the men. If somebody will do the job for $72,000 a year, you're an idiot to pay somebody $100,000 to do it. That's the rule of thumb, folks. Look, you may not like hearing it that way, but if somebody will do the job for $72,000, it's the same job from person to person. You're an idiot if you're paying somebody $100,000. This whole thing is hogwash anyway. These stats, once again, don't mean as much as they could because they're static stats. They don't explain the dynamics of any of this. But I also like my idea, and let me rephrase it, as it particularly relates to Hollywood. If the men in Hollywood, male leads, are being paid that much more than women, and Hollywood is the citadel of liberalism, where there is utopia, or we're soon to have it, where there's equality and fairness and equity and all this, then isn't it incumbent on the men to give back and to refuse that much more money than the women are being paid? Not only would that be good feminism, that would be chivalrous. So here you have the studio executive casting the movie, and he offers the male lead $1 million, and the female lead is going to get $720,000. Well, that's unfair. That's unequal. That's bias, it's discrimination, it's sexism, it's bigotry, it's all kinds. The male lead should go to the studio honcho and say, I'm not going to let you get away with this unfairness. I demand that you only pay me $720,000 a year so that what the female lead and I make are equal. Isn't it incumbent on the male liberals of Hollywood to fix this themselves? I mean, what business they got standing up, belly aching at us, pointing a finger at us for? We're supposedly committing all these grievances and atrocities against women, where right in Hollywood we know that men are paid much more than women. There are market reasons, as we discussed. I got to take a timeout, folks, but we will be back. Speaking of Rudy, I have some sound bites here. Rudy, speech he made in Phoenix on February 13th. And he's talking about this. Now, this is not the 21 speech last week. This is February 13th, a Friday. And Rudy called Obama a moron, and said Netanyahu is a leader who fights for his people, unlike our president. The media started noticing this one after the 21 speech surfaced last week. Let's listen.
The president reformer who runs Iran, Rouhani, in 03 and 05, continued to enrich uranium while they had a standstill agreement with us. He did it secretly and bragged about it, and we're negotiating with him. This is like playing poker with a guy who cheated you twice before. You know who does that? A moron. An agreement with Iran with regard to nuclear power should be very simple. Iran should not be allowed to have any form of nuclear power.
All right, now, speaking of that, there's a piece for the AP today, and it looks like we have an agreement with them to allow Iran to phase in development of a nuclear weapon over the next 10 years. The United States and Iran are working on a two-phase deal that clamps down on the nuclear program for at least a decade before providing Iran leeway over the remainder of the agreement to slowly ramp up activities that could be used to make weapons. So we've got a 10-year supposed moratorium. After that, the Iranians can go ahead and develop a nuke all they want. That's the agreement AP is reporting that we have today. And as Rudy said, anybody who would do that is a moron. Next bite, Rudy, again in Phoenix on February 13th, compares Obama to the Prime Minister of Israel.
We are upset that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to come here and defend his country. When I was mayor of New York, if someone threatened to destroy New York City, I would go anywhere, any place, anytime, and I wouldn't give a damn what the President of the United States thought, to defend my country. That is a patriot. That's a man who loves his people. That's a man who protects his people. That's a man who fights for his people, unlike our president.
See, this is right on the money, folks. It's just as right on the money as the 21 speech, and they're just glomming onto this. Here is the big finish.
I'm never going to have my 10 close friends that I lost on September 11, who were killed by Islamic extremist terrorists. I'm never going to have them ever again. And I'm never going to have my 343 firefighters. Never going to have them ever again. We can't bring them back, but we can make sure there aren't more of them. This president isn't doing it. This president is moving us in a much worse and really frightening. And Congress must stop it, and the people must stand up and say, no, 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 we will not sell out to Iran the way Chamberlain sold out to Hitler. No!
Rudy Giuliani on February 13th. Again, not the 21 speech. So now that's why you're going to condemn Rudy for what did he say? He said, no, well, I wasn't there. I don't know. People in New York talk a lot. Leave me alone. Man, oh man, it is indeed the fastest 3 hours in media. I know that because 2 of them are already over. But we've got more. We always have more, and we'll be back with it before you know it. Sit tight, my friend. Yeah, okay, well, it's a second place that I've seen it, but I haven't seen any real confirmation. We had a caller up here that we're going to get to in a minute is Al Sharpton has lost his show at PMSNBC. And I got an email from a friend earlier today that Al Sharpton lost his show at PMSNBC. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And it's not on the Drudge Report. And if it's not on the Drudge Report, it hasn't happened. So I don't know. It has to have gotten started somewhere that they've canceled Sharp. So that's Frank Sinatra III they got rid of as well. And some woman, Melissa Harris Perry, or is that who it is? Or was this? Oh, yeah, Joy Reid. Joy Reid. I get rid of Joy Reid and Frank Sinatra III, Ronan Farrow. But everybody knows. It's not Frank Sinatra Jr. because there is one. Who do you know hates me? Frank Sinatra Jr. The people at Patsy's told me they can't explain it, but he does. I've seen it elsewhere. Frank Sinatra Jr., or at least he used to, and hadn't anything changed since then. I don't know why. I have no clue why. I never said anything about his dad. I've always admired his dad. Always did admire his dad. It's a little throwaway, but I've not seen it elsewhere on Sharpton. I did see that Frank Sinatra III's gone. Well, they are worried about ratings. They have to be. They don't have any. But this Frank Sinatra III, this was hilarious. This guy, 26 years old, had never, ever done TV. I would have thought this guy would have been hired in radio first. That's generally where people have never done it before get hired. Excuse me. Slap my face. Anyway, after 3 days on the job, Frank Sinatra III won the Cronkite Award for Excellence in Journalism after 3 days on the job. This classic example of how the liberals and the Democrats circle the wagons. And by the way, welcome back. Rush Limbaugh again, 800-282-2882. I want to stick with this Scott Walker and Rudy business because Marco Rubio is doing the right thing as well. I want to single out for praise everybody who's doing this the right way. The liberal Democrats, whenever there is an attack, like Rather and his bogus report on George Bush and the National Guard, they circle the wagons to protect Rather. They circle the wagons to protect the news and liberalism. And they didn't so much circle the wagons around Brian Williams, but it's not too late for them to do so. But the Republicans never do. The Republicans have always thrown somebody overboard. Left comes after a Republican. The Republican reaction is tarnished, soiled, no good to us anymore. Media attacking him. He's got to go. And they throw him overboard. And this is not happening with Rudy. It's just the exact opposite. Marco Rubio, in addition to Scott Walker, is demonstrating how this is done. TV station in Florida, WPBF. Is that one of the stations here? PBF? I never know these call letters. It's not here? What number is it? What channel? PBF? Is it 25? It got to be 25 because PTV is 5. Yeah, and PEC is 12. So this, okay, so it's really up in Tequesta. Like the studio's near Joe Namath's house. And so it's the ABC affiliate here in Palm Beach. West Palm Beach. We don't have any TV stations in Palm Beach. And they were interviewing Rubio about Giuliani's remarks. And Marco Rubio said, I don't feel like I'm in a position to have to answer for every person in my party that makes a claim. Freaking men! That is exactly the right answer. Why does every Republican have to condemn comment period on something any other Republican says? Because it's part of the Democrat Party media game of destroying Republicans. Democrats aren't asked, this is Rubio, Democrats are not asked to answer every time Joe Biden says something embarrassing, so I don't know why I should answer every time a Republican does. I'll suffice it to say I believe the president loves America. I think his ideas are bad. And then the Legal Insurrection blog, which is a great conservative blog, William Jacobson. 3 questions all Democrats must answer. If you think the mainstream media is not out to elect Hillary Clinton in 2016 every bit as much as it was for Obama in 2008 and 2012, and you need your head examined, the multi-day ongoing demand that Scott Walker verify that Obama is Christian and loves America is a good example. Why is it that Republican candidates and politicians are required to verify the bona fides of Democrats? A freaking man. Again, why in the world is it up to Republicans to offer qualified support for Democrats? Here are 3 questions I have yet to hear Obama or any Democrat asked. Should Joe Biden stop touching women without consent? Is Elizabeth Warren really Native American? Is it okay that Bill Clinton participated in vacations with a pedophile? That'd be Epstein flew Clinton to his private sex island because he owed Clinton a favor. Nobody asks Hillary about that. It is the job of the drive-bys to ferret out information from Obama. It is not the job of the GOP candidates to opine on it. And this is a new concept for the drive-by since they have not been doing their jobs for 8 years now. So somebody comes along and makes like Rudy did. I think he loves America. What do you mean? Scott Walker, you think Rudy, you think Obama loves his country? Marco Rubio, you think Obama, I don't know. Go ask Obama if he loves the country. What are you asking me for? I didn't say it. Well, Rudy did. What do you say about Rudy? I'm not going to comment on what Rudy said. Why do we have to comment on everything Republican? You go ask Democrats what they're going to... You can comment on what Debbie Wasserman Schultz says every time she opens her big mouth? That's what never happens. No Democrat is ever asked to explain extremist, crazy, insane, lunatic fringe comments they make. And no other Democrat is asked to condemn them. It just doesn't happen. I'll tell you, folks, I'm beginning to see a positive uptick here in how to deal with this stuff, and it is so overdue. I have been begging, I've been advising, I've been cajoling, I've been suggesting, I've been demanding that Republicans stop accepting all of the different premises of these different questions that the media comes up with. I've been begging Republicans, stop thinking that you can get in good terms with the media. Stop thinking you can make them respect you. Stop thinking that you can make them like you. Stop thinking you can make the media understand you. Stop thinking that you can set yourself apart from who you think is an extremist in the Republican Party by condemning them, because it doesn't work that way. And now they're starting to it's starting to happen. And because when you get right down to it, the reason why it's happening in this instance is because what Rudy said, everybody else has already thought. This isn't some off-the-wall, out-of-the-blue comment that nobody's thought of. And therefore, it's not outrageous. What Rudy said is not outrageous. It's what everybody has asked themselves now and again. For crying out loud, at the terrorism summit. You know, of all groups that should have been there, there is a Reform Muslim group of Muslim clerics. I forget the name of the group, but they are interested in reforming Islam, which is an interesting notion in and of itself. Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, any number of the worldwide religions are constantly engaging in revisions. The Catholic Church does it, as you Catholics well know. You have ecclesiastical conferences. You have papal papers that are released. There was Vatican II, then Vatican III. I mean, the Catholic Church is constantly not revising the core faith, but they are revising elements of it. But the one thing you don't ever hear about happening in Islam, however, there is a Reform Islam Muslim cleric group. They're the one Islamic group that Obama didn't invite to his White House summit on terrorism. Of all groups that I would think you would want there, it'd be that one. But I mean, I think that these are the questions that Rudy raised are legitimate, and they're rooted in common sense after 6 years of observance. Well, I've just been handed a news flash. The National Association of African American Owned Media alleges that Sharpton and other advocates have been bought off. Comcast, wait a minute. What is this? Is the Hollywood Reporter. Comcast Al Sharpton hit with $20 billion racial discrimination lawsuit. Does this say that Sharpton's been canned? Okay. Even though the FCC has not yet ruled on a proposed merger between Comcast and Time Warner Cable, one group has already filed a lawsuit claiming that at least $20 billion in damages from the way the two giants allegedly discriminate against black-owned media. The complaint was filed in California on Friday, comes from the National Association of African American Owned Media, which also filed a similar suit against AT&T and DirecTV in December. This time the plaintiff is not only targeting both Comcast and the Time Warner, on the verge of what would be the largest pay television distributor in the U.S. if they merge, but also various African-American advocacy groups and PMS NBC host Al Sharpton for allegedly facilitating discrimination. How did Sharpton discriminate at MSNBC? Look, does anybody doubt why Sharpton got the gig? You know, does anybody... Journalistic talent... Al Sharpton can't read a teleprompter. The journalistic talent, he's not a journalist. If anything, he might come alive and be the real Al if they gave him a megaphone. One of those handheld megaphone things. From the old march days, the public march, the protest days. But put him on TV. They bought him off. One of the reasons you hire Sharpton is to get him to not oppose your merger. Shakedown. There's no doubt why they hired Sharpton. But I've had two different people tell me Sharpton has been fired. I can't find it. This is on Mediaite as well as a Hollywood Reporter. All right. The lawsuit goes on to say that Comcast made large cash donations to obtain its support for its acquisition. This is all about the merger with Time Warner. The money includes, see, here you go, right here it is, $3.8 million paid to Al Sharpton in a national action. And despite that, the guy still owes the IRS $4 million. So the lawsuit says that Comcast, which owns NBC, paid Al Sharpton $3.8 million, Sharpton and the National Action Network. The money was meant to pay Sharpton to endorse the NBC Universal deal and divert attention away from discrimination. As for Sharpton's MSNBC job, the complaint in the lawsuit says, despite the notoriously low ratings that Sharpton's show generates, Comcast has allowed Sharpton to maintain his hosting position for more than 3 years in exchange for Sharpton's continued public support for... I knew this one. So somebody's filed a lawsuit based on all this. Okay, cool. The National Association of African American Owned Media is making this charge. This is black on black lawsuit action here. This is not, you can't say this is racism. You can't say it's discrimination. This is NAAA, the NAAAOM. That's the acronym. That's why why would they firing him? Because of the lawsuit? Well, no. Now they're shouting at me that Sharpton's been fired now because paying him off didn't work. They got sued anyway. Doesn't matter. They haven't won the suit yet. Well, it wasn't supposed to prevent the suit. It was supposed to prevent Sharpton opposing the merger. And the Reverend Jackson. Now, he didn't get a gig, but the Justice Brothers. You buy one, you buy both. This lawsuit just codifies exactly what, or spells out exactly why the Sharpton job was created, why he was hired. It's payoff. This is how you keep Sharpton from getting his rabble-rousers all up the protest march, protesting the mergers. How you stop that from happening. Anyway, let's take a brief time out. Still searching to see if it is actually true that Sharpton, you can't find it? I can't either. I've looked. Grab line. Now I got to take the break. If I don't take the break, I'm going to be really up the creek, so I got to take the break. Okay, I have found it. Sharpton's not going to be fired. He's going to be moved. They're going to end the Monday through Friday Sharpton show and move him to the weekends, if he accepts that move. If he doesn't, then yeah. Sayonara. The source is Atlanta Daily. Something in Atlanta backed up by, let's see, the Huffington Puffington Post, or what is it? 2 or 3 places I've seen it now. Here's Scott in Middlesex, North Carolina. Great to have you, sir. Where did you hear about this Sharpton business? That's what you're calling about, it says.
Yes, Rush. Privileged to be on the show. I heard about that this morning. I was listening to Glenn Beck's show and heard that the Al Sharpton show was going to be canceled. And like you said, I believe he's going to get a weekend show, a 1 day a week instead of the 5 that he's normally been on.
It's called The Graveyard.
But my main question is, or what I want to speak about is, when it comes to Al Sharpton, why has no one called him what he really is? He's the most extreme racist in the country, but yet the left and the right, nobody wants to call him that.
Well, no, that's not entirely true. There are people on the right who have. Certain media people. You won't hear elected Republicans talking about him that way, but it's not very many. And I get your point. There have been people who do. The reason for the answer to your question, and there is a good answer to the question, and it's not just of Sharpton. It's why the same answer would apply to the Reverend Jackson or Sheila Jackson or you pick it. And the answer is they have been such a put-upon, abused minority since the founding days of the country that it simply isn't possible for them to exercise racism because they don't have the power to actually implement the racist beliefs and ideas that they have. There's such an aggrieved minority that this is their own answer. This is what leftists have said. Jesse Jackson, every word out of his mouth is racist. No, they can't be racist. They don't have any power, which, of course, is bogus to say they don't have any power.
Well, that's for sure, because, you look at the access that Mr. Sharpton has with the White House. Actually, that's just unbelievable that someone like that has the access to the president.
No, it's not unbelievable at all. It is totally believable if you know who Obama is. Why would a radical not welcome another radical to the Oval Office? It's not unbelievable at all. What's unbelievable is who's in the Oval Office. What's unbelievable is who's extending the invitation. It's not unbelievable that Sharpton would go there. What would be unbelievable is if we had a Republican president wanting Sharpton up there all day, every day, to give advice. That would be unbelievable. This, Obama calling Reverend Al and Holder up there for advice on what to do about, say, Ferguson, makes all the sense in the world from their perspective. meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every busy broadcast day. I am Rush Limbaugh with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. All right, now, on the Sharpton business, the reason for the confusion is that there's confusion. The Truth Revolt got the whole thing started, and they got it wrong. Here's the bottom line. Sharpton probably is going to lose the daily gig and move to weekends. Joy Reid is also going to lose whatever it is she does there. Now, the Daily Beast, which is a left-wing commie publication also on the Internet, they have a headline. After MSNBC axes Frank Sinatra III and Joy Reid's show, is Chris Hayes next? They are speculating that this be real careful here, El Rushbo, be real careful. The person who hosts the 8 p.m. show might also be on the way out of town. And that if that is the case, that the person who's on there at 8 would be replaced with Rachel Maddow. How can you tell the difference? Slap my face, I didn't say that. It's a legitimate question. Okay, little ISIS news, ladies and gentlemen. From the UK Daily Mail. Islamic State militants have vowed online, I'm not making this up, by the way, it's the UK Daily Mail. It's somewhat humorous, but it's actually not. Islamic State militants have vowed online to take over Rome. They're coming after the Catholic Church, and in fact, the Vatican is taking it seriously and is doubling, tripling security. But that's not it. That's not all. ISIS have vowed online to take over Rome and, quote, throw homosexuals off the Leaning Tower of Pizza. And they wrote pizza instead of Pisa. It actually says Pizza. In the message posted by a confirmed Twitter account linked to ISIS, the ISIS supporter threatens to bring Sharia law to the Italian capital. Of course, they're just pretending to want Sharia law. They really aren't Muslims. That's what Obama says. Obama says they're not Islamic. He says they're not Islamic. Obama's saying it. Don't get mad at me. Obama says they're not Islamic and they're not a state and they're not Muslims or whatever they're doing in the name of Islam, but they're not Islamic. Why? No, they are beheading people. And yes, they are setting people on fire in cages, yes. But they're not, they don't want Sharia and they don't want Muslims. That's just what Obama says. In the threat posted today, Twitter user Abu Abdullah Brittani, Al-Sahib Skyhook, who openly publicizes ISIS activity, wrote, "We are coming to Rome with slaughter." The message was soon followed by one that read, "We are coming to Rome. We will conquer and establish the justice of Sharia. We will use your Leaning Tower of Pizza to throw off homosexuals." That's just silly. That's just, Leaning Tower of Pizza is not in Rome. It's in Pisa. But that's what the message honestly does say. In the wake of the threat, Italian security chiefs have approved plans to put 4,800 soldiers on the country streets and post them to sensitive sites to help prevent terror attacks. Reports claim 500 security people will be deployed in Rome, where soldiers are already guarding diplomatic residences, synagogues, and Jewish schools. Meanwhile, the commander of Vatican City's 110-man Swiss Guard said that his forces are ready to defend Pope Francis if ISIS attempts a strike. So, Homosexuals thrown off the Leaning Tower of Pizza in Rome, according to ISIS. That Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, right? Or Islamic State of the Levant. But why would they be? What you? Well, because they're trying. Why would they be calling themselves the Islamic State if they're not Islamic? I don't know, because if maybe to fake people out. Maybe they're just trying to give Islam a bad name. You're asking me. I'm not a member. You know, why should I speak up? I'm going to sit here and explain ISIS to you. Who do you think you are? The mainstream media, and I'm some Republican presidential candidate? What do I got to explain ISIS for? I know how to play this game. The Department of Homeland Security, government watchdog, says the Obama regime is continuing to award multi-million-dollar contracts to firms to quickly process millions of illegal immigrants despite the federal judge decision to put a stay on the executive amnesty order. This is just like what happened a year ago. In January a year ago, the regime posted ads on government websites for logistics companies. They were seeking companies to help transfer and transport all of those kids that were later in coming months going to cross the border from Central America. Remember those tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors? The government, a month before they began arriving, started advertising for jobs, job applicants for transportation companies. Now what the point of this is, that even though the judge has issued a stay on Obama's executive amnesty, the government is still continuing to hire via million-dollar contracts. They're hiring businesses that will help the government quickly process the millions of illegals that will be granted amnesty. So the regime is proceeding. They're getting ready for the day they beat the stay that has been issued by the judge. And in an accompanying story at thehill.com, the regime is going to seek an emergency court order to move forward with Obama's executive action on immigration. Officials at Department of Homeland Security plan to seek what is known as an emergency stay that would essentially undo the Texas federal judge's injunction from earlier this week. So they want to put a stay on the stay. What in the hell is the rush here? Now, seriously, what is the rush? Obama's got 2 years before the next election, and there's nobody that's going to stop him other than this Texas judge. But seriously, why not? I mean, why have to go after this in an emergency basis? I'll tell you why they want to get this, because the more they get done, the thinking is it's all that much more difficult to unravel it. That's why they want to get it done. That's why they want Obama's executive action happening now, because it's much easier to stop something from happening than to unravel it once it has been implemented. Have some more really good media sound bites on their frustration with Scott Walker refusing to play the game, refusing to condemn Rudy Giuliani. The media is beside itself. Up first, Jonathan Martin, our old buddy from Politico, now over at the New York Times. He was on CNN's New Day this morning. And John King asked him the following question. What do you make of it, John? I mean, Walker won't play. He's not going to answer your questions about Rudy.
Scott Walker is nobody's fool, and he doesn't want to answer these kinds of questions, which gives him an opportunity on the right. It's all kind of a depressing, cynical exercise, frankly, because, Walker doesn't want to play the game, and by not playing the game, he then gins up sympathy on the right against the media, which enables him to raise more money, and it's all a very circular deal.
It's depressing. It's cynical that Walker will not fall for the trap. It's cynical. It's depressing that Walker is too smart for these guys and won't fall in for it. Because what happens? What happens is that he gins up sympathy, i.e. support, on the right against the media, which enables him to raise more money. That's not what we had in mind here at the media. They're so frustrated, they're openly admitting this. This is great. Well, yeah, he won't play the game. And that means he's getting all kinds of support from the right, and he's able to raise money against the media for it. It's really a very circular deal and cynical. And then Norah O'Donnell on CBS This Morning today. She's talking to political news director John Dickerson about all of this.
Scott Walker refused to say if he believes Obama loves America. Is this the new standard?
Scott Walker's he's being very safe. He's on top of the world for the moment in the Republican primary process, and he doesn't want to make a mistake. And we've seen that on several things. He's very risk averse.
Is this the new standard? What are we going to do, John, if we can't keep playing these tricks on these guys? If they're not going to fall for it, is this the new standard to just not answer our questions and help us destroy them?
And so Dickerson says, well, yeah, Scott Walker, he's trying to be very safe. He's on top of the world right now. He don't want to make any mistakes. He's very risk-averse. No, he's not risk-averse. He's smart. He's not risk-averse. He's finally decided, as has Rubio, it's none of his business to say. You guys do not ask Democrats these same questions. So then Charlie Rose butts in and says, can you be too safe, John? I mean, can you be too safe? I mean, he had momentum and attention coming out of Iowa.
He did. And Republican primary voters are going to be fine. It's not that this is going to hurt him. It's just that it was an opportunity when the camera swung over to him for him to do something clever, for him to say something defining. He'll have maybe other opportunities to do that. But what this suggests is a certain cautiousness, and, he'll have to get past that.
I'll tell you, the vanity or the narcissism or the hubris of these people, they are running a scam, and listening to them talk about it is surreal. To hear them act offended that the guy will not fall for their scam. They know they're trying to trip up a Republican here. They know that they're trying to get Scott Walker to say something that's going to hurt him. And he's too smart for it and won't, so now he's a coward. But this is going to catch up with him. It's going to catch up. These people actually believe that voters are going to be unhappy with Scott Walker because he's not answering their question. They haven't the slight. And, it would be so easy for these people to figure out why they're wrong and how they're wrong. All they would have to do is study how Walker behaved and comported himself and campaigned, winning 3 elections in 4 years. They think he's the one screwing up. He's the guy that's won 3 elections in 4 years. He's the guy that's implemented a conservative agenda in a blue state. They think he's the one screwing up. This is actually, to me, profound to listen to these people. This trick, this device is so ingrained that when the Republican doesn't play along, why, somehow this means irreparable harm to the Republican down the road. This is really instructive, folks, to listen to this. We had Jonathan Martin, you had F. Chuck Todd all upset about it, Norah O'Donnell, and John Dickerson. And it is quite illustrative. Now, we know who the media is. Don't misunderstand. There's nothing new there. This is about their attitude here. It's as though the Republicans are supposed to go along with this device that is designed to take them out. And when the Republican doesn't go along with it, somehow the Republican's screwing up. Because the natural order of things, don't you know, is media destroying Republican candidates. And if the Republicans are not going to play along with that, then the Republicans have a problem. Just amazing. Thank you so much for being with us here today, folks. Another rousing start to another busy broadcast week here on the Rush Limbaugh program. We have a 21-hour break, and then We will be back. Can't wait. See you then, folks. Have a good one. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Medical Research Council, a British group, paid for an extensive study on the food we eat. They looked at diets in 190 countries from 1990 to 2010, and the results are not so hot. The good news is there are more healthier food choices in the world than at any other time. People have access to vegetables, fruits, grains, fish, all the stuff you hate. Mankind has all kinds of good, healthy, productive, nutritious stuff to munch on. The bad news is that even with all these healthy choices available, people are eating more junk food than ever because it tastes better. They want junk food. They like junk food. They eat junk food, and then they want even more junk food. They want their salt. They want their processed meat. They want their sugar. So let's put this in perspective. The study found people are eating more healthy foods, but they are also eating even more junk food. Apparently, they're eating everything they can get their hands on, but they like junk food more. Totally normal. Other findings, older adults tend to eat healthier than younger people. Women eat healthier than men. One researcher noted that Westerners eat more junk food, but China and India are catching up. He wants the government to step in because we can't leave this unchecked. Now, if Michelle Obama needs something to do after 2016, she has a ready-made career as chief of the food police for the world.